last one.
Okay. Good.
I told my mom one more time.
Got a minute to
I want to
go.
hear something reasonable. Get it. How big deal is this call?
See you again.
Really?
Yep.
Can't figure it out.
See you twice in one day.
Yeah,
Although it didn't,
I am.
I went to an Indian field in Raleigh, and I mean, from the very beginning, always has some retail. So, well, I don't know, yeah, smart brother, yeah, that's simple, so, well, that's what it is. So, brother hit me on that medicine, put me off, and I didn't know how I got this,
Yeah, that's yours.
I mean, he was Johnny, wasn't he?
I got the second reading.
After a while, it's,
Get that out of the way.
I can't bet it was good.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, all right then. You ready down there?
Yep.
Here. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order. We are assembled here in the City of Oxford Board of Commissioners meeting room, and it is Monday, April 3rd, 2023, 5:30 p.m., and we are here for the City of Oxford Board of Commissioners agenda meeting. And we do have a few items to discuss on tonight's agenda before we move on to reviewing the agenda for next week. And I would like to ask you all for your indulgence, if you will consider an add-on item tonight. It's nothing that needs any decision, it's just for discussion. But you have a sheet that the city manager prepared for us. It says it's one-page overview to switch to cloud-based Office 365 instead of the local email server. And the city manager invited Patrick Newcomb instead of, in case anybody had any questions. And I'd like to suggest, with your approval, that maybe we talk about this first, so that way Mr. Newcomb can carry on with the rest of his day rather than waiting through our meeting. If there is a motion to.
Motion.
Yeah, there was a multiple motion. I'm gonna let you, Ms. Bowen, figure out who that came from. Awesome. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of having a brief discussion on cloud-based Office 365 instead of the local email server, signal so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Okay, that motion carries, and Mr. Harold, take it away.
Thank you. I appreciate the board being willing to do this tonight. It just kind of came to a head at the end of the week this past week. We had emails that I've had lost emails. I found out that I didn't even know the commissioners were getting lost emails. So I found out from Commissioner Cohen that they were. And then staff's been getting lost emails as well. So I called Patrick, and he said we can move into the cloud-based. And so I brought this along to explain it. I'm going to read what he wrote real quickly, and then if you have any questions, Patrick's here to answer. The cloud-based Office 365 will notify employees of change in downtime. They're going to pre-migrate 90 days of emails using a migration tool. It'll preferably be done at Friday at 5 p.m. We will point the email to the new email system and contact the employees that need email over the weekend and assist with the new account setup. Over the weekend, finish migrating the email. Over the weekend, employees can use web-based email system to check email if needed. Monday morning, on-site remote assistance to refigure desktop computers and other devices for remaining employees. He did a breakdown of cost analysis. We have 77 current users, basic license 47, standard license 30. These prices are with a 1-year commitment to the license. The license can be reassigned, but to get better pricing, the license cannot be canceled for 1 year. Basic license is $6 per user fee, and a standard license is $12.50. The monthly estimate is $657. The archiving for the cloud is $4 per user, or $308 a month additional to keep the archiving option available for public record searches for a total of $965. There's a one-time $20 mailbox setup for $1,540. This will also give all employees the latest versions of Microsoft Office, which most are running the 210 edition now. Usually Patrick would charge for weekend work, but since this is gonna benefit both sides, he's not gonna do the weekend work. And as far as the budget's concerned, I'm gonna work with Melissa on finding that within the budget. And all I'm looking for tonight is if y'all don't have any objections, I'm gonna move on with this under, as administrative task, but I wanted y'all to know.
I got no questions, but I'm from the old school, you know. I used an abacus at school, and technology scares me sometimes. So I'm sure Patrick is going to, and Brian actually can help.
I will help you all day.
Will help.
This is good. This is actually
I
going
don't
to be
mind
easier.
admitting it. You know? I mean,
Yeah.
the cloud.
I think this gives us an easier way that our email will work on any device. It's supported. I'm not sure what version of Exchange we're currently running, but
2016 currently.
it is that is in terms of technology years, that has you by like double in terms of age.
all right then.
So I
Yeah.
mean, so it's old and
You understand the
yeah.
picture?
How about it?
So the biggest functionality that I'm hoping for, and we tried to do this a couple times, is right now if the city hall loses power or internet service, nobody can get email. City hall can talk to each other because they're here as long as they have power. But we had an internet issue last week for about 3 days. The internet and phones were very spotty here because of Spectrum. I had multiple customers in the downtown area all having the same problem. They worked on it as hard as they could. But unfortunately, we take email for granted sometimes. Those emails could have been attempted then and gotten bounced back. So with going to the cloud or Microsoft's cloud, it's like 99.9999% uptime. The backup and archiving system is there for public record searching. We have that currently, so I wanted to mimic that. But, you know, again, if the internet goes down on the weekends, typically I see it and try to get it fixed or resolved, but, you know, 811 locates could be missed, notifications from the SCADA system, all of those things, could be missed. The other dilemma is, we're still running 2010 Office, Word, Excel, and Outlook on the majority of the computers at City Hall and everywhere but the police department. That's no longer even supported or updated from a security standpoint. So with this subscription, everybody always gets the latest version, and that saves the city $20,000 or $30,000 every few years to buy the newest version by going to the subscription model versus having to buy the software. So it's a big adventure. I've done it many times with the same size or bigger organizations. That's why we just wanted to have a list of, probably a public works director, engineer, all those that need access to those emails over the weekend so that we can work with them over that weekend to make sure they can get back into their email.
And if I'm not mistaken, the cloud base, because I've had this before, will allow me, for example, or anybody, to get to my desktop too, here at work.
No, this is just for email.
Oh, it's gonna be just, okay, my mistake, just for email,
I mean,
okay.
if we use the OneDrive system and you had a city-owned device, yes, you could synchronize the files back and forth. But
Okay.
this isn't like a hosted desktop environment.
Okay,
That's you're looking at $40 to $70 per person per month for
Oh,
something of that
okay.
nature.
Would we be able to eventually, again, I'm just thinking like for budget purposes, where we're using Zoom today, I'm assuming that's a paid service, and Microsoft Teams being part of the ecosystem, there might be some synergy there where we could consolidate certain services that are under the Microsoft umbrella to, if there's a need in the budget. Teams is, if you remember Skype,
Yeah.
tends to work a little bit better
Yeah.
if you think about technology, but food for thought, at least as we're considering
It
how
comes
this
with
might fit.
The basic Teams license, so if you wanted people to be able to call in to a number for conferencing, that's an add-on feature of like a few bucks for that one person. And if I need to get a list filled out, right now I'm just trying to replace what
Yeah.
we're already using. We can always add to it later as needed. But the biggest thing is the uptime, we're not having to worry about power or internet access. Microsoft monitors it, Microsoft updates it and patches it 24/7. And then being able to also get everybody on the same platform of Word and Excel documents. Compatibility isn't an issue, but if, one person asks another, how do you do this, and they're on different versions, then that doesn't always match up between employees.
But we'll still be maintaining a server downstairs for.
Right now, yes, sir.
Yeah. So there, theoretically, if we think about synergy of services down the road with budget, I imagine there's probably, that might be a consideration if we're going to like OneDrive and eventually phasing out the server.
OneDrive or
yeah.
hosted desktop environment. We've talked about switching Tyler Technologies, the ERP system and water utility billing to the cloud. I don't know where that is in discussion, or if that's in the proposal for this year or not. But what would be beneficial for the city from an emergency response standpoint is if City Hall disappears, flood, fire, tornado, hurricane, you guys can move somewhere else and be up and running within a reasonable amount of time, or whatever your governing bodies recommend for that time period. We hope it never happens, but we have to be, prepared.
I would just say maybe for budget consideration, if we got a list of like, or got some idea of what that would cost
Okay.
versus like maintaining on-prem is, so that if we think about down the road, capital expenditures or just phasing that out, what would that look like? How would that impact the budget, whether it be this year or the following year, whatever that might be, just kind of get an idea of what those cost balances are.
Another recommendation, which is kind of a different topic, but I'll briefly mention, is we've had the current phone system with the city for 5 or 6 years. There's another company that we could actually save about $500 a month over what we're paying now. So if we eventually switch to that, it almost offsets this additional cost by half. So that may be another discussion that we can look at saving later. But that was part of my recommendation for this fiscal year was, yes, we're spending X, but we're saving Y, and that kind of, doesn't wash out completely, but at least does help in the budget. I don't have many customers that don't use this today. About the only ones that I don't are like tire shops and places that just don't use email. In any business environment, which the city's technically a business, it's either Google or Microsoft. They're the big ones. Microsoft has the majority share, and I think that's gonna be an easier switch since that's what we already have. It's just an upgraded version of that.
Okay, Melissa, did you have a question?
The availability of email addresses, will that change with this? Because right now we're limited, and with going with the new work order system and possibility of new employees coming in.
As long as we buy the licenses, there's no limit. Well, I think the technical limit's 250 that you can move to.
With that,
But, if you want a new license, we just buy it. Again, the way Microsoft does it is you have one fee that's just monthly, and you can cancel that license at any time. The other is a yearly commitment. So you get a better price. That doesn't mean you can't reassign it to another employee if one leaves. That just means that you can't go below that number of licenses for the 1 year period.
Okay.
And then we're actually set up as a partner with Microsoft so that we'll actually be able to tie that to your monthly bill and pay it by check, because a lot of cities don't like paying bills with credit cards. So we'll actually be able to handle that for you and that license management for you as well.
So that license is what allows each employee to have email access. So can you explain the difference in, because I see
Basic
the
and
price
standard?
difference,
Sure.
but what is the difference
So
between
basic-
someone needing a basic and a standard?
So basic is email only. Your email, web-based Outlook, calendar, Teams, all of that function. The standard includes the desktop application. So that's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Access, Publisher, and Outlook. So the standard edition gives you the actual desktop application. So that was calculated based on the number of employees that have desktops currently. We have a
Okay.
lot of employees that have city email addresses. They either share a desktop or they're assigned, they just use it basically for their W-2s and because they didn't want to send it to their personal email account. So we can fine tune that number. We may actually need a couple more based on the new work order system. But before we move forward, I was going to fine tune that with HR to make sure that we're not creating more boxes and committing to licenses for people that aren't employed anymore.
Okay, great.
So that will vary slightly year to year. It will only vary a lot if you decide to hire 100 employees or something like that at one time. But generally, the positions are pretty standard year to year.
So currently, right now, we are not paying, so this is a shift in dollars of $12,000 a year. Am I understanding that? Because right now we have a server and everything is running through the server, so we had the cost incurred up front with the purchase
Correct.
of the server.
Correct. But that server is also housing all of the data for the network drives for the employees to have Word, Excel documents, and collaboration there as well. So you're you're not losing all of that original
Right.
investment. The other thing we have currently is a company called AppRiver, which does our spam filtering. That will not be needed going forward as well. So that's about $2 or $3 per person per month right now, so that's also another saving. So if we do a couple things and save 700 and then spend 1,000, we're really only
Mhm.
spending 300 at the end.
So have you two had a discussion about the phone system since?
We had an initial discussion before Hawk left, and that's something we gotta get back to discussing.
I didn't want to not mention it and you know.
No,
again,
that's pretty important, I think, if we're looking at a potential $500. So could you just briefly explain
So right now,
how this would help us save us so much money with phone?
so every 3 to 5 years, technology comes down an estimate of 20 to 30% in cost. So what I do for all of my customers is normally once every 2 to 3 years, we do an annual review. So we look at your internet costs, your phone line costs, and phone systems costs. So where we were several years ago, there's now another company. We can use the existing phone, so you're not having any upfront expense there, and actually keep the same phone numbers and same functionality to basically a bigger or newer company that has lower pricing. And that's actually a 5-year locked-in rate, so you're not having to worry about it going up for 5 years. It's actually myself. You actually buy your phone system from me, and I can't sell it as cheap as I can get people to buy it elsewhere. So I hate to make money when the city could save money. If that helps offset the cost of everything else for the city, you know, it's worth it for both parties.
And we'll have that conversation.
Yeah. Okay,
Cool.
excellent. Other questions from colleagues?
Sounds like we go.
Okay.
Okay,
It'll
Excellent.
I'll
also,
move ahead.
if you go ahead with the iPads and stuff for the agenda meeting, that'll make that simpler as well. Yes.
How would switching from AppRiver affect social media archiving?
We'd still keep that portion just with AppRiver for the social media, just not the spam filtering side.
Oh, yes, sir.
Hey, one of the reasons that some of us maintain the older version of Outlook and whatnot, because of indexing and searchable, fields. Are we gonna lose any of that by going to a newer version? I might go back and change the index and settings so I can look up a 10-year email if I need.
A couple options. One will verify that it works. We would hope the new versions work better. That doesn't always make the case. The other part with the archiving system, right now only city management have access to the archiving system. With this, if it's agreed upon through management, you can have access to just your archive. And you have a separate portal that you can search every email you've ever sent, whether you deleted it or kept it.
That's why I maintain 2010 now I'm searchable after my first email I ever got.
So you would have access to just your mailbox, only things that were sent back and forth to you, and make it a lot actually simpler than what you're dealing with now, maintaining the older versions.
And I'm glad that you asked that question because that was gonna be the other one is that if I'm recalling correctly, you said archived for a month, additional fee to archive for longer. So I was wondering about, you know, if there's,
Where
Our public
was that
rec-
coming from?
oh, did I mishear that? I don't know why I thought I heard, $4 per user per month.
What we would, there's a 90-day interval. Basically, if we decide April 8th to do the cutover, before April 8th, we'll pre-migrate the last 90 days worth of mail. Then after that, it'll do 90 days back to the beginning of time of what the email server has. That's just the limitation of the pre-migration tool. That way you have some of your emails, but not all of them.
Okay, so then
That's where that 90
afterwards, the
yes.
rest will end up
Yes, ma'am.
eventually migrating so that in the event of
And
a
then
public
we'll-
records request, that
Correct.
information
And it'll be
could
much
be
simpler
available.
for Cindy to do that than what she's dealing with now. That system through GFI Mail Essentials, again, once we finish the cutover, I'll do a massive export and send that to a company called DropSuite, and then they will ingest all of those emails. So she'll be able to search on the internet from wherever she's at and do they call it litigation holder, or basically a search or query of every email, previous, current, and going forward.
Okay.
Cool.
Excellent.
And
Anything else?
there's no additional charge for the amount of emails that are stored. The only thing that is they give you like a 25% overhead. So if you had 100 users, you can have 125 mailboxes. Over time, say 5-10 years from now with turnover, we may increase a few bucks at a time, but I don't see it ever doubling or tripling to that measure. But again, that's something we'll also handle. You handle the license management and billing for you as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
excellent. Anything else? Great.
I'll move with it.
Okay. Very exciting.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Patrick.
Good luck.
Y'all have a good evening.
Okay, so with that, we'll go to item A under city business, which is hold the second reading and adopt the GFL franchise ordinance. This item requires the board to adopt the enclosed franchise ordinance for its second reading, which approves the contract with GFL effective April 1, 2023 for initial 5-year term ending on March 31st, 2027. The franchise ordinance requires 2 readings. The first was on March 14th, 2023. It is recommended the second reading take place at our meeting today on April 3rd, 2023. In order to make it effective 2 days ago, April 1st, 2023, the contract with GFL has been amended by the city attorney upon further review to include an explicit statement that the city is not responsible for any fuel costs. All fuel costs reside with the contractor. Section 8B was deleted as it referred to fuel cost adjustments and explicitly states that the city will not be charged if for any reason the contractor is unable for a period of time to provide collection services because of force majeure. The annexation process was initiated at the,
That's not supposed to be in.
that doesn't belong. Okay. So recommended action is that staff recommends adopting the GFL franchise ordinance on the second reading. And, is there a motion, or does anybody have any questions before we go forward with the motion?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Khan. Any discussion? And I think I'm seeing what the attorney adjustments on page 5. The bottom of the page is highlighted in yellow. Fuel costs are not included,
That's what
they're on
he
sole
said.
responsibility. And then on page 7, in the event of a force majeure and the contractor is unable to provide services, the city's obligation to pay for such services will cease until such time as contractor is able to comply. And those are the 2 highlighted areas that were mentioned in the narrative. Are there any questions by any members of the board? All in favor of Commissioner Khan's motion, signal so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? That motion carries unanimously. And we have item B, staff proposal for revitalization and use of the Armory property. Downtown Development Director is working with the UNC School of Government, city staff, departments, county representatives, and the Cooperative Extension to bring a formal proposal for the Armory property to the Property, Building, and Facilities Committee. Due to recent active outside interest in the Armory property, the staff is bringing this idea of developing a formal proposal to the full board for consideration before moving it to the committee. This proposal will include the determination to apply for the upcoming Community Development Block Grant, where an applicant can request to be considered for up to $5 million. After speaking with the planning director and determining there will be no interference with already awarded CDBG monies, the Downtown Development Director would like to proceed with gathering data for this grant, as well as preparing the formal proposal for the Property, Building, and Facilities Committee to consider the future revitalization of the Armory property, which serves as a crucial gateway into downtown Oxford, as well as a community place with great potential for the city of Oxford as a whole. And you have support information in attachment 2B, which I believe is the staff report, correct. And recommended action is at the board's direction, but I would like to invite our downtown development director, Elizabeth Blair. Would you like to be speaking and discussing this with the board before we go forward? That's not a requirement, but I am asking.
First, I'd like to thank you guys for allowing me to come speak to you this evening, but I would like to preface this by saying that this is not a full proposal for what the Armory could be or what it should be in the future. It's just an idea and a partial proposal of my thought. So first and foremost, the Armory property serves as two crucial gateways. One, it is a gateway into downtown Oxford, but it is also a gateway bridge to the community on the other side of Martin Luther King Avenue, which is predominantly a lower to moderate income class. My thought for the Armory is it can be a multi-stakeholder cooperative. So basically it would be encompassing a consumer and a worker cooperative where we could see a food co-op as well as a workforce development center there. We want this to be a community place. So it can be a multi-use where there could be city events held both inside, or not just city events, but city events held both inside and outside on the lawn, as well as meeting space. There is ample space for meetings on the inside, as well as for a smaller type of grocery store and a farmer's market area. And speaking with some of the local businesses, some of them are interested in being like anchors for this type of development. So they would be willing to host satellite locations inside the Armory in order to help anchor it for the community. As well as speaking with our Granville County Economic Development, the Cooperative Extension, and some of the other small businesses, most are in support of the City of Oxford moving on this to move it into a type of co-op space. Unofficially, I know that the county would be interested in kind of keeping up their area to help us to maintain that area. So there are a lot of collaboration efforts between organizations in this community to help bring this to fruition for the community. I also see a collaboration with Vance Granville as well for workforce development. That can be something to help us as well. I mentioned in there that I've been working with School of Government, and I have been working with the DFI, which is the Development Finance Initiative. They work mostly with private and public partnerships. I am recommending that it be a public and private partnership for the Armory. This would allow us to get their services to help us kind of develop that plan for revitalization of this building. Mr. Harrell and I did meet with them on Friday as the, forgot his name, I think it's Rory Dowling, was actually a part of the school class that worked on the Armory feasibility study about 6 or 7 years ago. So that they are willing to work with us. Of course, I would be getting a quote from them because DFI, they do charge for their services, but they could be a third party mediator in helping us working with a private developer who that may be. The private developer who is interested now, I don't know who that is, but part of working in a public-private relationship would be willing to sit down with them to kind of hear what their thoughts are for the Armory space, and if there is room for a collaboration between the city and them, as well as the county, in terms of bringing a co-op to this area. This area is highly walkable. But it's not really pedestrian friendly. It is a very high trafficked area, and kind of going along with helping to bring food to this side of the community can go towards also making it safer for pedestrians who are crossing and walking it daily. And of course, we also have community centers throughout the county, but also in the City of Oxford that could be potential resources, as well as North Carolina food councils and other regional councils that could help out as well.
Could you mention what your idea is for the lawn?
Yes, for the lawn, that could also be an event space. We have some of the other department heads and I have talked about, just having kind of like a small gazebo or a small area where you can host live music, food trucks. I've spoken with Chief Ford and Detective Fields about the possibility of hosting National Night Out on the lawn at the Armory, as that is also a prime spot for reaching the community. We want it to be thought of as a community space. While it may not seem like a big deal for having a gateway look good, what does it say? Picture's worth 1,000 words. What a person sees when they come in is worth 1,000 words. So if they see something that's not going to be appealing to them, either they're going to turn around or they're just going to keep driving through. So we want the people who are walking through to stop and to stay and to be a part of the community, but we're wanting our visitors to stop and stay as well. So this would be a great initiative, in my opinion, to do so.
And the building is 17,000 square feet, so it's much bigger than what you might think from the outside, which could lend itself to the public-private approach.
Excellent. And just, I don't know if y'all are aware that the Development Finance Institute actually worked with the city of Wilmington on their area where they now by the water have a convention center. It was a complete bust until DFI came in and worked with them on how it could be redeveloped, so.
And they're very aware of the Armory property in
Right.
Oxford, so I think they're also wanting to see it to become something valuable to the
Right.
community.
Excellent. Any questions? Yes?
The private part of it, what were your comments about that?
So there's in working with DFI, you have to have a private component to it. And my thought is to have a private-public partnership. So where we would have a private developer come in to potentially redevelop it, but the city would be a partner to kind of say, hey, we're gonna put in this much along with you put in this much, but this is kind of what we wanna see. It would be a partnership, kind of in tandem, putting a vision together, if that makes sense. Did that answer your question?
Well, I was just, what I really thought was that someone or a group had been identified to be the private part.
Well, no one has been identified. I just know that a private party is interested in buying it, and that is, I don't know who that is. But my thought was it would be good for us to sit down with them to kind of hear what their thoughts are for the property, to see if there would be the potential for a public-private partnership.
So, but we're not attempting to give away or sell or lessen what the city of Oxford's stake in the property is? We're,
No.
okay, so we're not talking about changing ownership or anything?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Getting into the partnership portion of it, would establishing like a nonprofit partner specific for whatever the intended use may be, would that fall in line with that sort of requirement? I'm thinking of maybe some other projects that I've seen done, PFAP in Orange County, is the one that comes to mind, where they established a nonprofit it's all county and city owned assets, but they established a nonprofit to run and develop it. Would that be a qualifier?
I think so. Granted, I don't know the full extent of everything yet, but with the community development grant that I would like to apply for, the type of investment or the type of project you want to do has to create jobs, and this is a prime place that can create jobs. So I can see that being something that can take place.
Questions this end?
Another question, with regards to the workforce development component of it, would it be in any type of competition with what the COG currently provides, or how has that been evaluated?
I don't know the answer to that, but I can look into that for you and get you that information.
Vance Granville interested a couple of years ago in this workforce development. I think did they pull out for some reason?
Well, at that time, we thought there was a pretty serious offer for redevelopment of the location by a person in the community who put in a formal offer to buy. And so Vance Granville was in the process of trying to apply for money, and so I think they switched to looking at taking their project to Triangle North. I'm not certain, but I feel like that's still
I think they've done that now.
in the works there.
And I can see it also kind of, like I said before, it's a collaboration. So we can still be a site, like a satellite location. There are, like I said, this is a highly walkable area for pedestrians, but it's also just for people who do not have access to transportation. So this gives those people access to different types of opportunities they would not necessarily have. In terms of a food co-op, Lowe's Foods is no longer there, Walmart's on the other side, both food lines are on the other side,
Yeah.
and the only thing that's really close is the TN Mart that's right at the corner, as well as fast food. So this gives them access to more fresh and local food. The cooperative extension, we have talked about how we can work, and starting off slowly, of course, work to have a farmer's market there Monday through Sunday. Of course, it won't be like that when you first open it, it's gonna start slowly. But they have a community garden that's going up in Granville Street. I know that Oxcan at Hope House is starting a community garden. In the partnership with Cooperative Extension, we've discussed allowing the students who grow produce in that community garden to have a table set at the farmer's market to help with entrepreneurial skills so they can sell the produce that they're growing. So, like I said, this isn't a formal proposal, it's just ideas that I've kind of
I like
brought together. But there's a lot of potential for it to be a community place, a nice community place for people to gather, especially those who don't have the bridge into downtown Oxford, even though we want it to be for everyone. Downtown is for everyone. And I think that the Armory can be a crucial gateway, not just for people driving in, but for those walking in as well.
You mentioned having the county work on their piece, and I'm not sure what you are referring to since the city now owns that entire property. So
But the county still owns the neighboring property.
county owns the health department
Right.
and the one right next door,
Yeah.
you're right,
Right.
where the Board of Elections is. Okay, I just
Right.
wanted to be clear we were on the same page.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I have something. So it's been, I don't think I've been in the armories since I was like a little kid. So are there opportunities for us to go in and see it? I mean, I'd like to get eyes on it.
I agree. I think that would be a good idea. I think you guys would be able to kind of start envisioning what you would like to see there if you were able to see it in person.
Yeah.
So whenever you want to set that up, we can make that happen.
So maybe how about we look into that after, we got a busy week this week, and then Commissioner Tovey's gonna be gone till the end of the month. So we look at it for May, maybe, we'll bring it up and talk about scheduling a visit.
Sure.
Good do.
That work?
I'd like to see.
Excellent.
What does DFI stand for?
The Development Finance Initiative. They're through the School of Government.
Is it initiative or institute?
They've done projects all over the state. In fact, I brought them up to Brevard last year, and they're doing an affordable housing study there to see if they can entice private developers to come in and do affordable housing. You got to have a private concern involved with it, and that's the main thing. And DFI also were the ones who worked on what happened in downtown Durham and all of the warehouses that were switched over. DFI was the key partner in that. They also were a key partner in Wilmington about 3 years ago, and we took down an old parking garage right on the river.
That's
And
what I
there,
was
yeah,
watching.
and there's now restaurants, ground floor is all retail, and then there's new residences above that. So they do some great work in the state.
Okay, so you're looking for the board to recommend that you carry on with your work and look into submitting an application for a CDBG grant?
Yes.
that it?
Is that what I'm?
And we bring it back to the committee with a
Yes.
formal proposal.
Okay,
Yeah.
Idea.
is there a motion to,
Motion.
for Elizabeth?
Motion
Okay,
to
Mayor Pro
bring it
Tem
forward.
makes a motion.
All right.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of Ms. Blair continuing her work on this and bringing a formal proposal to the, property, buildings, and whatever committee, I apologize for,
Grounds.
Building and
and
Facilities
Facilities.
Committee, signal so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Okay, that motion carries unanimously, and thank you for your time and energy putting
Thank
this
you.
together and for your presentation tonight. Okay, with that, we move forward to setting the agenda for next Tuesday's regular session on April 11th, 2023. And we have, let's go ahead and we'll address the add-on item because the manager wants us, so we have an item that's a two-pager. It says amendment to ARPA grant project ordinance. It should not say that. It's meant to say, airport authority operational expenses. Would that be appropriate, Mr. Farrell?
Yes, I apologize for my cut and pasting.
Okay, so you can see that this is, about the city of Oxford budgeting $5,000 in its annual budget for aeronautics, authority for operating expenses. I think this was a request of an increase, over what we traditionally spend. I think the annual allocation might be 26,000.
I think it's a little, I think it might be a little more than that.
So this is an additional amount.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so they requested it for, wow, we needed an amendment, is they requested it, it was before I was,
Right.
on the board of directors.
They came before us and made a presentation
Yeah.
and said their insurance costs were going up $20,000 or $25,000 a year. Well, it's 4 parts, so it's $20,000 a year, and they needed $5,000 from each of the partners.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's just one part of it. I think it's general expenses as well. It's not just for
Oh,
insurance.
okay.
I think
Yep.
if anybody wants a lot more information about it, I have all the numbers and expense reports and whatever. But they were under the impression that my predecessor had already, I think, secured it. And so it's kind of, wish we would've got this before the board, before this, but it's here now, and, so yeah, they're just asking for a $5,000 increase, and I'm pretty sure, Granville and Vance County have done it, I'm not sure about Henderson.
Right, and I think if I'm recalling correctly, I no longer remember when they came, but when they came with the presentation, we were the first they were asking, and it was presented as that there was literally only to support an increase in the insurance premium, which was surprising for the members of the board that the insurance premium would double. And so the discussion at that time was, why don't you go ask everybody else and see how they respond? And we never heard back.
Yeah, I think there was a lapse in communication somewhere, so.
Right. Okay. So are you all good with this being added to the agenda?
Yes.
For next week? And I would just ask, if it's possible, maybe to flesh out the points of how much we normally pay, and this is an
I'll do
additional
that.
amount, so that the total, what the new total will be,
Okay.
and
I would say it's 27.5.
I think that's right. I think that's
currently
right.
27.5. Thank you. And yeah, that's because you've had your head in the budget. And you know, Commissioner Lumpkins, would it be possible for you to find out if all the other partners have increased commensurately,
Yes, I can do that.
and let the manager
Yeah,
know?
we'll work together on
Right.
doing that.
Excellent. Okay. So moving back to the rest of the agenda, we have call to order, delegations. We'll hear from Steve Blasco, Public Works Director. That's great. And public hearing to receive citizen input on the updated land use comprehensive plan. So will we, are there any changes to the comprehensive plan? I know the map has changed, so board members will need a new map. Are there other changes to what the board received last month? So I'm asking this for the purposes of attachments.
Okay, so for the purpose of, for attachment, the only change has been, we designated an area for, conservation, and that was the 59 acres that adjoins or adjacent to Happy Creek that was donated to the Tom River Land Conservancy
Mhm.
Group. So that was noted, and then there was a small piece of, commercial right in front of the Walmart. But
That-
outside of that, nothing, no more than language in the, descriptions for the downtown to, recognize the courthouse.
Okay, so is it, so the first two you were talking about, that's on the map?
Right.
So those changes were to the land use map. So I know you sent the map out, but is it possible to make sure that included in the agenda is a copy of the updated map for the board, and then for the rest of you, we bring back, are you good with bringing back or do you want a whole new copy of the language?
Land use map.
Just a
So
minute.
the only thing that's gonna be added is, under, I think it's cultural resources or downtown. They're gonna highlight, the important piece of the courthouse.
Okay, so,
But that has not been done yet. They're trying to incorporate all of the changes that we want to bring forward. But the other changes have been made.
okay, so if there's significant changes, so board, do you want a whole new final draft printed up and included in the attachment? Do you want that just put online with, the significant changes like the courthouse and the map? What would you like?
Online.
Online, I don't want a whole new.
Online and just some wording to say where the changes are.
I like what the
Yeah.
changes are going to be, because they not incorporate the piece with the courthouse, which is basically, describing that under cultural resources or downtown areas.
Okay.
Other than that, everything else is no.
Okay, and then a hard copy of the map. Great, thank you very much. So item A and B is public hearing and consider adopting it, and you have the language there, so does anybody have any other questions on that? Okay, moving forward to 5A, consider calling for a public hearing to be held at the April board meeting for a request by SS Long Holdings LLC to rezone 322 Lewis Street from light industrial to highway business. Do any of you have any questions on this item? Okay. Item B,
Does it call for the public hearing or hold the public hearing?
it says,
Calling.
we're gonna call for the public hearing to, oh, you're right, okay, so we're holding it.
We're holding it.
Holding it in April, but calling for it now.
No,
No.
did we call for it last month?
We called for it.
Right, so this is, it needs to be
Consider hold-
listed under public hearings, it's not under public hearings, so that needs to be moved. Thank you, Ms. Hart. So, we'll have an A and a B for that under public hearings? Okay, do any of you all have any questions for Ms. Hart or anybody on this item at this time? This is the place, this is the unimproved land that's on the other side of the old Burlington.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay, great. Anybody have any questions? Okay, moving forward to, so item B will become item A, right? Consider awarding the fiscal year 2022-2023 audit contract to S. Preston Douglas and Associates LLP to audit the city's financial statements from July 1, 22 to June 30th, 23 in an amount not to exceed $35,500. These are the folks that did our audit this past year, which was a lot of work, I think, for everybody, for Hawk and his staff, as well as for them, because they found out they got started late in the game. Do any of you all have any questions on this item at this time? Melissa or Mr. Harrell, I'm just curious, do we know what we paid them last year for the audit?
I believe that is the same amount, but I'd have to look.
We'll check that for next week.
Yeah, it would be, would be good to know whether it's stable
Okay.
or how much of an increase, 5% or whatever. Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this? Okay, moving forward to item C, consider calling for public hearing for the May 9th regular board meeting to receive citizen input on the updated plans for the 7 1/4 commercial component of Hatcher Creek PUD. The developers are proposing 32,000 square feet of commercial and office real estate, 17,000 square feet of general commercial retail, just nearly 11 of restaurant space, and 4,000 square feet of office space. These changes will need approval as a modification of previously approved plan for the 7 1/4 acres. Colleagues, do you have any questions on this item? And, I'm looking for, okay, wait a minute. Attachment 5C, do we have an attachment?
Yep.
Yep, okay. 5C, just the staff. Is it possible, to be prepared to say what is different about this plan as compared with what was originally proposed?
No more than more commercial space. Originally, it was proposed and it was identified in the TIA as 26,500, I think it was, square feet of commercial space, and they're increasing that to 64,000 for commercial and office retail space.
Okay, I'm a little, okay, so so it wasn't detailed out in the original plan, broken out like this, 32,000 of this, 17 and so forth, it was just a total of 26,000? Okay. Okay, I'm just writing myself notes, thank you. Okay, any other questions for Ms. Hart on this? Item D, request from Granville County. We have enclosed the request letter from the Granville County Chair of the Board of Commissioners and its county manager asking that the Veterans Affairs Committee be exempt from fees to participate in the City of Oxford sponsored events. And that, please note that this committee, because of its office location in the downtown area, is already exempt from a city fee if it opens a booth in front of this location for downtown events. So you have the request letter is from Chairman Russ May and County Manager Drew Cummings in attachment 5D. Any questions on this?
Yeah, if it's already allowed, why are we being asked for an exception?
Exemption.
Exemption, excuse me.
They're asking to be exempt to participate in any of the activities, not just this one. If we have any activity
That the city sponsors.
That the city sponsors, they would like to be exempt from the fees.
Right.
Not just because they can locate in front of that office downtown. They want it for any city sponsored event.
So, for example, hot sauce, would they normally be required to pay for a space at hot sauce?
So when I spoke with Chris Defmere with the VSO office, I let them know that since the VSO office is in downtown, this is for hot sauce specifically. Since the VSO office is in downtown, they are allotted one free space, just like all downtown merchants are. If they wanted an additional space, they would have to pay $55 just like every other downtown merchant would. So when I last spoke with them, the conversation I had was they were going to let the Veteran Affairs Committee use that space, or they were going to share the space with the Veteran Affairs Committee, which I told them was fine.
The county? When you
I'm
say
not
they,
talking
who are
county.
you referring to when you say they were going to
Chris
let them
Defmere.
share that space?
Chris Defmere in the VSO office.
Right,
That is
with the committee. Got it.
He's the
Okay.
veteran service officer that reports into the county.
Right. Okay, so obviously it doesn't apply to the hot sauce. I'm I'm trying to think of what other events, so like Culture Fest is not actually sponsored by the city, so that's, Christmas parade.
Christmas
We don't
parade.
charge for the Light of the Greens activities, but we do charge for the Christmas parade.
To be in it.
Yes, ma'am.
So with this, are we assuming this would apply to the Christmas parade?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, just trying to make sure that we know what we're talking
Okay.
about. Okay, any questions?
So are we really saying that anyone who has a business physically downtown will have a space, and if they want to participate in the parade or have a float or something, they don't have to pay? Is that,
No, this is
okay.
just for the Veteran Affairs Committee. So for Huntsville specifically, the downtown merchants that are along the streets that are being closed have the option of having a free space in front of their storefront. If they want an additional one to that, so for instance, Main Street Oasis, they have one free space, but they have bought 3 extra spaces because they're allowed to do so. Strong Arm is having 2 spaces. This and that, they, same thing, they have one free space, they bought another one. For the Christmas parade, that's something totally different, but for most people, everybody has to pay to be in that.
So-
I think the only time that we're a little bit lenient on that is with Graham County organizations, but that's more so with, it's not necessarily nonprofits, but it's more so committees and organizations that are directly linked to the Graham County Board and the administration, if that makes sense.
So this is kind of linked, but they don't receive any funding. So
They
the
don't
Veterans
receive-
Affairs Committee, it's a Granville County Veterans Affairs Committee, but they don't receive separate money to operate. They just,
They do receive money.
they do receive money from the county?
They haven't gotten any from the county, but they have had donations.
Right.
They get funded from part of the military show. But they have a bank account.
Right, no, but that's what I was saying is in terms of, but a lot of our committees don't receive money either. Okay. Further questions? I'm seeing,
Well, I guess I'm still confused though. I mean, not that I'm not opposed or anything. I'm just trying to seek clarity. Is this just because it's the Veteran Affairs and it's a county thing, or is it?
Unfortunately, that's not a question I can answer.
Oh,
It's a request for for the Veterans Affairs Committees, and the county's making the request on their behalf.
okay. And they just want to waive these minimal fees.
They would like to have the fees for city-sponsored events waived.
and it's probably likely that they're asking every city the same thing in the,
Yep.
in the county, so that if they wanna be participating in the Butner Parade or the Creedmoor STEM or whatever.
But they're still gonna work with the VSO that can share that space in front of there.
Yes.
That's
So
all.
we are approving an additional space to that.
Well, I think just the Christmas parade, really this affects just the Christmas parade.
Well,
doesn't
but
it?
what
Or
there's,
anything else that they.
Not the way this is reading.
Yeah.
I think that if it would come to that, and they would want additional spaces, that would just have to be a conversation between the event management team and then the, person asking. I guess I can't make that decision, but specifically the way I'm reading is that it's for all events, so High Sauce, the Christmas parade, and that's the only 2 events that the city sponsors where any payment fee is required.
would you like to request that, somebody come to speak, whether it's the, chairman of the Board of County Commissioners who wrote this letter, or somebody from the Veterans Affairs Committee? No, I'm seeing, Seth, you're saying, no, we don't need anybody to speak
I
on
mean,
this.
I'm good, I don't.
Okay. What, yes?
I'm not opposed to it, I'm just unsure of what we're
What
talking
you're
about.
approving.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like you're
That needs to be
approving a
clarified.
blanket, Veterans Affairs Committee can participate in city-sponsored events for free.
Is there anything else they'd be charged for other than a space?
Yes.
But if it's blanket, they
Yeah,
could
no.
take 3
It's
or
like
4
$50
spaces,
No.
couldn't they?
For
They can only have
nonprofits,
one.
it's actually a little bit cheaper. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but this hot sauce specifically, for hot sauce, it can range between 25 to 60. 60 being the highest if you're selling food or giving away food, 20 being the lowest if you're just giving away information.
Where exactly is the VSO office located?
It's the old county manager's office,
Yeah, the old county manager's office.
where you go in to pay taxes,
Yeah, okay. So it's in,
where,
Next to
next
the
to
old
where the
sheriff's
sheriff's
department.
department used to be.
Yeah, next
I
to the
got
old
you.
sheriff's department. Okay.
But I mean, my confusion is, if I heard correctly, the VSO office said they'd be willing to share that space with the Veterans Committee.
That's what I left understanding with the last conversation, but there might have been some miscommunication
Yeah.
in there, so there may just.
So it sounds like they've got a space,
Got the
but they're
space,
asking
yeah.
for more space
Mm.
for free. That's where my misunderstanding is occurring.
yeah, my thought is if a group already has a spot, they can share it with whomever they would like to share it with. I mean, why bring it to us?
It's the VSO office primarily, and then they're gonna share it with the Veterans Commission.
Right.
Yeah, I think the last sentence says, they want to be, the Rainbow County respectfully requests the City of Oxford Board of Commissioners consider modifying existing policies to exempt the Granville County Veterans Committee from registration fees to participate as a vendor at no cost at all future city-sponsored events, not just the hot sauce. If we came up with another event and
Right.
they were charging vendors, they would want to have that, they just want a blanket exemption on fees.
Right.
I don't think we could do that.
Well, I think there are two ways of looking at it. In the way that I'm not telling you what to think, but I think they're looking at it as the purpose of that committee is to reach out to veterans, and they want as many opportunities to be publicly present to do that. And so I would infer that the subtext is, if y'all support our veterans, this is a pretty low-cost way to make it easier for us to do our outreach. That's how I'm, they're not trying to make money, they just want to be present so that people are aware of their services and what they can do for our veterans in the community.
But if Post-90 wanted to do the same thing, they'd have to pay a fee.
Y'all are gonna have to figure that out. Yes. Yes, that's true.
It's a difficult one.
See, and I'm more aware of what your group does because it's directly across, and that's where we do our volunteer services and stuff. But, yeah, that is interesting, Ron.
I mean, I'm truly not opposed to that,
Yeah.
obviously, because I would support veteran, but this needs to be clarified, is the only thing I'm saying. What are we,
Exactly.
Right, so
Totally.
that was why I was wondering if you want to ask a representative of the committee to come forward so that if you want to ask them, they are able to respond. I'm not saying they have to, but that's actually why I threw that idea out there, was if you have questions, they either need to be asked ahead of time or ask a representative or Commissioner May to speak on their behalf.
Can we just ask them to clarify what they want in writing?
Could do that.
You can do that. Okay?
Can we ask them if they want,
or if it would help, I'd be glad to work with you in talking to them and getting it clarified, getting it straight.
That possibly would be a better.
and it sounds like to me they just want one space. But maybe we can just ask them if that's what they want.
I'm thinking that you were saying what would be better?
If Ron gonna volunteer to work with Melissa and talk with them to get exactly an
Right.
exact explanation as to what they're asking.
Right, and I think that request can go to them, and it also, I'm pretty sure, isn't Creedmoor City Manager Mike Turner chair of the,
He was the chair, he's not now.
oh, okay, never mind, okay.
Charles Miller's the interim chair
Got it.
because Alan, passed away.
Okay, so are you willing to do that, to pursue it and find out a little more information? Great, okay, thank you. Is that good with everybody?
Yep.
Okay. I'll write myself a little note. Okay, item E, consider allowing the city of Oxford to submit an updated cost share letter for the Clean Fuel Advanced Technology Grant submitted in 2022. So the city made it through the second round of the grant cycle, has been requested by the grant administrator in order to enhance the application competitive to apply for 2 dual port charging stations for downtown Oxford. And so the previous adjusted letter has a cost share at $15,951 with recommended upgrades including Duke Energy rates. The new cost share is $20,928 with the overall budget for the grant project totaling approximately $104,500 for a total with 80% of costs covered by the grant. Do you all, Alyssa, am I correct in thinking that you have been working on this? Okay, do you all have any questions for Alyssa? Okay. Item F, amendment to the ARPA grant project ordinance. So you all are familiar with the amount of money. We have a thorough explanation from the manager about the recommendation to create an ordinance that applies this as revenue replacement, giving us more flexibility with what we do with the remainder money and not as much reporting requirements. And do you have any, in that we can still consider that money, pot of money, as separate for special things that we want to make happen that we might not ordinarily make happen otherwise? But do you have any questions for the manager right now?
Well, to be honest with you, I thought we'd already done this.
No, ma'am, you did not. What you did was you adopted a project ordinance that established that you were accepting 2.8 million from the federal government. And then you, at the same time, you budgeted it under capital outlay in the budget. If it stays designated as ARPA, there are, for every project you use the money for, there will be, you have to do special reports, special restrictions. If you make it just plain replacement revenue as a standard allowance, all the restrictions there are gone, because what you're doing is you're calling it a replacement of funds in your general fund, and then you can use it any way you want to use it. And the reason why I'm bringing this before you is because we have an April 30th, we just got the notice last month. We have an April 30th, 2023 report that has to be made on how you're going to use your ARPA funds.
And we,
By going ahead and doing this as replacement revenue, we just report that it's replacement revenue. They say fine, and then the board can spend it in any way you want to. We're going to keep it in a separate account so that it's not part of, so it's always there for you to make a decision. And when you got your budget preparation packet coming in tonight, and so you would have an opportunity to decide how you want to use the ARPA money
and it is,
without restrictions.
let Seth go first, then back to you.
Is the spending time limit still in effect if you do that?
No, once you make it replacement revenue, you're good to go.
And
And I thought we had a presentation from Alan earlier about designating the money in a certain fashion so you don't have to do these reports, and for whatever reason in my brain, maybe maybe the bulk of the money or something, But 10 million, but that
You know-
number's too big.
If
You're
you,
right, it was for anybody that was receiving under ten
Yeah,
million, and I
yeah,
actually have,
exactly. Yeah,
we
that's
did
exactly
do a
right.
vote, and I believe it was last April, but you,
I don't have it.
Yeah,
because Alan texted me and said the action taken by the board to elect the standard allowance for the ARP
exactly, it was
funds
standard
that the
allowance.
city received from the federal government should be in the official minutes of the city. Once the municipality is elected to establish the standard allowance, it doesn't have to take any further action except to submit forms or paperwork to the feds before the deadline, which is like 2026.
And that's what I'm recalling, and maybe I'm on the wrong subject
know
or
we
something,
discussed
but that
I know
is
we
exactly
discussed it,
what,
but there was
what
no
we
vote.
were told at that point. So what went wrong? I mean, what didn't we do?
I'm not suggesting that anything went
Oh,
wrong.
okay, okay.
What I'm telling you is that when I got this information, I asked the city clerk to provide me the materials from previous meetings of the board. I personally went through and read the minutes. I looked at whatever project ordinances that were out there. The only thing I could find was from August of 2021, where you adopted a project budget or special project ordinance that established the ARPA funds coming in and then budgeting it under your capital outlay. If you will look at your current budget, your 22-23 budget, you will find that ARPA money budgeted as ARPA money under capital outlay. There's no language about being a standard allowance or being replacement revenue. The board can do it, can go with it where they want to. My recommendation as your interim city manager is that you consider doing this.
So why wouldn't we do it?
Oh, no, I wasn't saying, but I'm remembering exactly what Teresa's remembering, that we had a discussion, we discussed the standard allowance and had exactly the same explanation. I know the county board did it, they made that decision in February of last year, so we are, that's all, you're remembering the
Yeah, I'm
same thing
remembering
that I'm
it too, and
remembering.
I'm sorry I didn't bring my notes, but I guess that wouldn't have mattered because my notes
We
don't
didn't act,
dictate
apparently
votes.
somewhere, we
but we
didn't act
did.
on it.
Yeah, there was lots of discussion, no vote. That I.
So if we
Okay.
didn't,
Okay,
if
well.
we didn't,
We need
Okay.
right now we need to.
We need
Okay.
to, that's
And make
right.
it official.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
there's
I
not a
agree.
record of it.
So there's no
I'll
need
say.
to worry about what we did that we didn't do.
Well,
What we
no, I
gotta
really
do
thought
is-
we did, but anyway, but if we
Apparently we
didn't do
didn't.
that part, but we did have the conversation.
Yeah, but we didn't act on it, so now we've gotta act on it.
So it's not gonna hurt.
Yeah.
No.
And make it official that we're acting on it.
Yep.
Oh.
Okay,
That's right.
good, further questions for our manager? Thank you,
Well,
Mr. Hare.
thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
I mean, Mr. Harold.
You're fine.
Okay,
Wow.
item G, the wastewater treatment plant rehab and improvements project revised resolution for tentative award of bid, revised capital project ordinance, revised budget amendment. So, board adopted a resolution for tentative award to the low bidder Carolina Civil Works of Durham with a 5% contingency of $450,958 for a total construction cost of $9,470,134.38. The March meeting, due to a mathematical error, the correct amount was listed for use from the water fund, and so this is a correction to previously approved items. Do any of you all have any questions about this item? Okay, and then we have the consent agenda. Any questions? Okay, and then we have April 1st, that just happened.
Can I ask our recreator, how did it go?
Well, in the midst of the rain, we probably had about 40 people out there, so, but the kids that were out there had a good time and Bunny did great.
Okay.
And I bet they got a lot of eggs.
Yeah, well, we didn't end up putting everything out.
Okay.
They were kind of, Jason and John did a really good job of kind of, feeling out that situation of what was the rain that was coming and so.
Okay.
Unfortunately, yeah,
You knew I was asking about,
I knew Brett.
she knew I was asking about the bunny.
Do you know the bunny?
Yeah, I know the bunny.
Okay, that's good. Good. Okay, Oxford's Main Street celebration, April 14th, 12 noon at the courthouse, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else we need to know about it?
There will be cake, so please come.
There will be cake. Come, encourage everybody else to come too. Okay, that's great. First Alive After 5, April 27th, 6 to 8 p.m. Come on, that's amazing. And April 29th, Oxford Arts and Wine Festival. Boy, it's amazing how everything is all starting to happen. So anything else to add? Any questions about any of these items?
I have one thing.
Yes, sir.
So, it's listed me as doing the Pledge of Allegiance. I did it last month. I'm happy to do it again. I don't mind, but I don't want to take anybody else's turn.
No, I think we'll cycle back to Brian. So Seth said he did pledge last month?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'll do it again.
Well, we'll move it around. And congratulations to Joey Hanford, Water and Sewer Employee of the Month. Is he gonna come? Do you know? Okay, wonderful. Well, that would be great. I need a middle name, if you've got one.
I thought I sent that to you.
Maybe you did.
What was it, Alyssa? The middle name for the employee of the month?
Not tonight.
You sent it to me? Okay, that's fine. There's been a lot of emails. Okay, great.
This manila envelope is your budget, draft budget, information for Wednesday night's meeting. It's the budget, draft budget, budget message, and supporting material. It also has the pay study in it.
Thank you.
Great.
Why did I think the meeting was Thursday night?
Excuse me?
The budget meeting is not Thursday night?
No, Wednesday.
Wednesday night at 6.
6 o'clock.
Okay, excellent. Then, anything else that you need to bring up? Tom, anything you need to bring up?
No, ma'am.
Steve, anything you need to bring up?
No, ma'am.
Seth?
Good.
Ron? Mayor Pro Tem? I just want to say thank you to all board members who were attentive and to Melissa, who has worked like just unbelievably hard to pull everything together for our interviews and the budget and everything. We just really appreciate that, and I appreciate all the attention of board members today in lots of meetings. So thank you. And to everybody else, yes, are you, Cheryl?
I did have a question before we close. Do we have the annexation of the?
Do we have the annexation? I did not see an annexation.
Which one, baby?
So that's the urgent care facility, and I know we talked about it before, but we mentioned, how some of the emails didn't make it to the ledger, and that was one email that did not make it to the ledger. So we need to hold that public hearing.
Yeah.
And we've advertised for that.
Okay.
This is,
There's a couple of
A.
things that have to go on, so
Okay.
there'll be,
No, it's not.
that
It's-
agenda will be bigger.
Right, so great, so you'll just send that out separately as well as including it to let us know. And before I continue down to Quan, I would thank you very much, Cheryl. I also wanna say, shout out to Amy, who was dealing with a lot of unexpected, issues today. And so, just, everybody, y'all are working hard, staff is working hard, there's been a lot going on. Thank you so much.
Mayor, I'd like
Yes.
to send out a real big yell out to Melissa, because she did a lot of work on this draft budget that y'all have got, and it's her first time doing it, so she's done a yeoman's job.
Yeah, and she worked all day Saturday.
Yep.
At least. So, yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Quan, anything to add?
I don't have anything.
Okay. John?
I got 2 shout-outs, and I'm so sorry that I won't be here Tuesday for the public to realise what a great police department and fire department we got. I had to call the fire department on Wednesday to assist me moving my terminally ill brother-in-law, and they were just great, so thank you to fire department. And the police department, I understand that one of our officers was assaulted last week by a crowd of people. So it just goes to show that we never know what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis by those.
I wasn't aware that someone was actually assaulted.
That was Captain Curl was assaulted.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
I knew there was a dust up.
Captain Curl. So a shout out, we don't appreciate them sometimes,
There was a dust up out here next to the basketball courts.
So what?
And
Dust
I apologize, we should have got that out to you.
What?
An altercation at the
Oh,
basketball
dust-
court.
a dust up?
A dust up,
That's what I was gonna ask, I'm sorry, what's a dust?
Yeah. that's what-
An altercation, y'all. Yeah.
Okay.
dust up.
Stephen, that's okay.
Okay.
But that,
Okay.
like a fight.
I knew what he meant.
So
knew
is
that
she
There
she
must-
okay?
So,
Oh, yes, ma'am, she's fine, she's tough, she's tough.
I mean, really? I mean, really an altercation or just?
Yeah, very large, very large.
so
Must have been very frightening.
must have been.
Thank
yeah.
you. Please tell her thank you, and we're glad she's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
That's it.
So that's it for you. But I would add, please keep John and his family and his sister-in-law and everybody in your thoughts and prayers with the passing of his brother-in-law, as
Funeral
well
is
as
Thursday.
funeral is Thursday.
At the Masonic home.
So send that information out if you would, and also Mary Cottle.
Miracle.
Her
Just a
family.
huge shock, former City of Oxford and Parks and Rec Director, way too young, way too young. But I did a proclamation of life for her that was read at the funeral yesterday, so.
Thank you.
But please keep her family in your thoughts as well. And Ms. Teresa, nothing, Ryan?
Not to belittle anything, but add on to anything that's already been said, but thank you to city staff for the budget. I know that was a lot of work. Thank you to Mr. Harold for jumping in both feet and tackling this. I guess that's kind of what you do though for the time of year that you start your interim work, so it's probably nothing new, but we appreciate it, and thank you to staff for pulling that together. Certainly, thank you to Melissa and the team, and Cindy for all the accommodations that were made for ongoing interviews and all the work that you've done there. That's a lot of work. And thank you guys for handling the email. That's gonna be great. That's gonna be a big help, I think. So appreciate you guys jumping on that and addressing it. And certainly thank you to everyone for everything you're doing, and thank you to the police department and fire department for everything you guys are doing. I unfortunately witnessed the event with the police department the other day out by basketball courts. So I was at the dog park and was there. So certainly thank everyone for their professionalism and no one getting hurt. So that's it for me.
Okay. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
I have a question.
Oh.
No, I'm sorry, because I just realized, so we can go ahead and adjourn this meeting, the other one is the one that we're carrying on for all of our. Okay, just wanted to make sure that we're all straight on the protocol. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem to adjourn. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye and with your feet. Thank you.
I heard
somebody was
You heard mine way down there saying.
Hey, Pat.
I think so.
Yeah.
Unless it was Ryan's or
It was mine. My sandwich is
And the
gone.
back door's locked.
It was a good sandwich, but it's gone. Yeah, that's what I did.
Okay.
I ate half and rubbed behind my ears and I said, I'm gonna stretch out.
And I apologize for the
Yeah,
agenda
yeah.
tonight.
So now I'm gonna get the other half and the potato chips.
Add that April 11th is the ribbon cutting from Regenerate. They're gonna be
I would send that out in our next meeting, so. Send it in an email. Up until.
And I'm sorry, today was rough, but you always say
Yeah, it should have been earlier, but it got missed. Me and two was still on the same day, so it'll be a bigger